Please be seated, says the President. The court is now back in session. And I hand over to the National Prosecutor to continue his line of questioning. Mr. Chandararasmai, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to now continue. Now, Mr. Witness, I would like to ask you about the communal living. Between 1970 and 1975, were the bank notes used or the market system were established? Response. Are you referring to the period before 1975? Response. Before 1975, to my knowledge, there was a preparation to print bank notes for use in the economy. That was before 1975. No. Are you referring to before 1975? Prosecutor, yes, before 1975. Response, no then. How about the market system? Was there an establishment of a system whereby goods and services were sold? Response, to my recollection, commercial transactions were functioning as normal. Question, what was the means of payment during that period? Response, I am sorry, I would like to answer it again. Before 1975, that period could be break down into different time periods. Before 1975, at the beginning, say from 1970, 71, and 72, they used the bank notes printed by the Lonol administration. And then later on, they stopped using the banknotes from 1974 and 1975. Question. Can you clarify the use of banknotes and means of payment in the liberated zones? Were there any exchange of goods, or did they abolish the banknotes or means of payment in the liberated zones back then? Response. As I said just now, it was in stages. In 1971, 72, 73, they still used banknotes printed by the Lonol administration. But from 1973, 74, and 75, the banknotes use were subsided until they abolished it completely in 1975. Response. It was not clear, and I sought it to myself. We had to apply one policy. Mr. President, could you please direct the witness to clarify his term. The prosecution, what do you mean, Mr. Witness? Response. This was not the party's policy, but it was my own thinking. If you would like to tell the story, it is a very long-winded story, and I would ask for permission from the President. But to put it simply, is that we have to mobilize our own forces and we have to use our own resources in order to conquer the imperialist forces.
Questioned in the liberated zone, did the CPK agree to the private ownership, or was it abolished? Response: I did not know in details. However, as I stated, based on my understanding, the principle of individualism needs to be abolished. Question: can you describe in details of your understanding regarding this principle? Response: it goes like this. Human beings have to seek for the truth, to make sure it is true and certain. Question: did the CPK abolish private ownership? If so, since when? Response: based on my recollection, the abolishment of private ownership was not a desire. It was the direction for a proper collectivity in order to defeat the enemy. Question: did it mean that private ownership was abolished in order to create another form of ownership which is in essence better than private ownership? Response: as I said, it is not at our own discretion. The situation itself demanded for that necessity. Question: what are you referring to in your last statement? Can you elaborate? Response: the situation, as I said, is that we need to sacrifice our flesh and sweat and blood, that is for self-reliance, as said by the Buddha. Then we had to follow this principle. Question: when the CPK decided to abolish private ownership, what other regime was created by the CPK? Response: I am not sure on that. I am not a founder. However, as far as I know, a regime was formed, that is the Democratic Cambodia. Questions regarding the ownership: it was a private ownership and a collective ownership. Which form of ownership the CPK decided to choose during the period? Response: I am not an expert on this matter. It was decided by the upper level. Question: Did you hear the word collectivity at the time? Response, yes, I heard of the word collectivity. If we did not have a collectivity, then there would be, and if we did not have a solidarity, then we would not achieve anything. Question, what does it mean in regards to collectivity or collective regime? Response, collective regime is that a centralized democracy. Question, centralization, was it a centralization for ideas, for labors, or for forces? Response, whatever it was, in order to defeat the enemy, it was centralization. Question, in regards to the establishment of the collectivity, when was it established? Response, I cannot recall because I only implemented it. Question, did you hear the word cooperatives at the time? Response, I heard of the word since the early beginning. It was used a long time ago. Question, were cooperatives established in the liberated zone between March and April 75? Response, I did not involve in this matter, so I cannot respond to your question. Question, did you hear that cooperatives were established by whom? And what types of cooperatives were established? Response, no, I did not know. Question, the CPK leaders whom you knew during that period, that is from 70 to 75, did you know the reasons, the proper reasons that they chose for the establishment of the cooperatives, either in a small or a larger forms of cooperatives? Response, could you please repeat your question? I don't understand. Question, as you were closed through the leadership level, did you know the intention, that is the main intention of the establishment of the cooperatives, whether the cooperatives were in a small or a larger form? Response, I cannot respond to your question. I am not an expert in this area. I move on then to another question. I'll ask you another question that is before the 1975. Did you know about the policy regarding choosing a spouse in the liberated zone? That is the principle of the party in regards to the spouse selection? Response, no, I did not know about that. I only knew about my personal business. I noticed the counsel is on his feet. You may proceed.
Thank you. It's a bit late because the answer we have already. But again, the gentleman is leading the witness. These are facts that are not in evidence from this particular witness. So if we're trying to figure out what this witness knows, then I would respectfully request that the gentleman be instructed not to lead the witness by suggesting facts which are not in evidence from this particular witness. and which are leading, in other words, suggestive of the answers. Thank you.
President, thank you, Counsel, for your observation regarding the question or the leading questions by the prosecutor. The Chamber would like again remind the prosecution to avoid the kinds of questions prohibited by the Chamber. And for the opposing party, please make your stand clearly on time rather than a bit too late. Thank you, Mr. President. Now move on to another question. In regards to marriage and spouse selection, can you clarify whether the Communist Party of Cambodia had a principle in regard to this matter? Response: as I said, I did not know about the principle. I only knew about myself. Question: you said that before the taking control of Phnom Penh, the Central Committee office was relocated from Stang Jinnet to Udong in Piem Commune. Is that correct? Respond: it was not the Central Committee office. It was not actually an office, it was a mobile force or mobile unit. Question: what was the intention of that mobile unit? Response: it was light, mobile, and active. Question: in Kampong Speu, that is in Udong, were you close to Pol Pot as always? Response: yes, I was always with him. Question: what was the purpose of staying close as always to him? Response: therefore, I was there for his service. What was your role at the time? Response: I was an ordinary combatant. Question: did Pol Pot select you as a security guard, or who was his bodyguard at the time? Response: we all had to carry out the role as a bodyguard. Question: did Pol Pot, Noon Chia, Ieng Sari, or Khieu Sampon attend the meeting in Udong district in Kampong Speu? Did you observe the frequent meetings between these 2 or 3 people? Response: the 3 or 4 or 5 person meetings were not held. The meetings were usually between 1 or 2 individuals. Questions: can you elaborate further regarding the 2 or 3 men meeting? What were the contents of those meetings? Response: I did not know any details regarding those meetings. Question: did you know about the discussion regarding the fighting or the making plan to attack Phnom Penh? Did you know who actually came up with the plan, and where was such a meeting held? Response: I did not know anything about this. Question: the chief of the zone or the chief of the military or those at the district or sub-district levels ever attended the meetings between Pol Pot, Ieng Sary and Khieu Samphan in that area?
Mr. President, for the witness answers.
President, witness, please hold. Defense counsel, you may proceed.
Again, Mr. President, I didn't object a little bit earlier. He used the word frequent meetings, suggesting that there were frequent meetings, and now he's insisting that there were meetings with Ieng Sary over there. First, he should ask the witness who, if there were meetings, who attended those meetings, before suggesting in the answer or in the question that Mr. Ieng Sary was involved in meetings. And I'm getting a little agitated at this point because the gentleman ought to know better. And he's been instructed twice already. He can go step by steps. Where are the meetings? Who attended the meetings? What do you know about the meetings? And so on. But to suggest a name is improper. Thank you.
President, the objection by the defense counsel for Ieng Sary sustained. Witness, you are instructed not to respond to the question by the prosecution. Prosecution, I move on to another question. After the meeting at the PM sub-district, were there other relocations within Kampong Chnang province before or during the evacuation of people from Phnom Penh? Who were the leaders who attended the meeting after the meeting held in PM sub-district? Was it held before or during the evacuation of people from Phnom Penh? Response: I cannot recall the event. Question: during the evacuation of people from Phnom Penh, where were you? Whom were you with? Response: at that time, the leaders were not with me. I was by myself. Question: under what circumstance were you alone? Response: I was guarding the hat of the leadership. Question: during the evacuation of people from Phnom Penh, were you still in the PM sub-district or were you relocated elsewhere? Response: I was still guarding the hat. Question: what situation did you observe in regards to the evacuation or the movement of people from Phnom Penh to the PM sub-district? Response: you are referring to a sub-district, but in fact it was not really a sub-district, it was a jungle, so I did not see any people. Question: do you know the name of a district called Srok Dopi? Response: I heard of that name, but I do not know where it was. Question. Can you confirm where Ieng Sari was? Between 1970 and 1975? Response. I did not know his whereabouts. Question. Did you know whether Ieng Sari went overseas during that period, that is from 1970 to 1975? Response. I did not know where he went. Only when he returned, then I knew that he had been overseas. Question. When did he return? Response. I cannot recall clearly from my memory. It was after the liberation of Phnom Penh. Question. Did you see him or knew where he came from or which country he came from? Response. No, I did not know. Question. You knew that he came from overseas. Do you know who actually accompanied him from overseas? Response. I cannot recall clearly the names of those individuals. However, there were some intellectuals who came with him. Question. Can you try to recall some of the names? Response. I recall the name of Long Noren and Ân Supiep. Question. Did you know the purpose of his overseas trip? Response. No, I did not know. Question. Did you hear people saying that he went to Beijing in China? Response. I went there once with him. Question. When did you go and for what purpose? Response. We went to the United Nations and to the non-allied countries. Question. Who else went with you on that trip? That is the entire delegation who accompanied him? Response. I cannot recall all the names. There were Mr. Kiet Chon, Mr. Chun Prasad, Mr. Chan Yu Ran. In short, those who worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs accompanied Mr. Ieng Sari according to their role and function. Question. Can you recall what year was it? Response. I cannot recall it clearly. I only recall that it was after the liberation. Question. Did you hear about the presence of Mr. Ieng Sari in Beijing? Response. I did not know about that. I did not know about his affairs or where he went. If I went with him, it was just for his company because I did not know about the language. Question regarding the intellectuals who participated in the revolution movement. Did you know about the policy of the party towards those intellectuals between the 1970 to April 1975? Response: I did not know the details. I only knew about the solidarity, about the construction and the defense of the country. Question: was there a selection process for the intellectuals before they would be able to join the Communist Party of Cambodia? Response: I did not know the details regarding this matter. Let I now move on to the meetings by the Central Committee in 1974. The questions are the following. Did you know about the meeting by the Central Committee in 1974? Response: no, I did not know anything about that. Question: did you never hear people talking about that meeting? Response: no. Question: did you know when Ieng Seri returned from overseas trip, where did he go within the liberated zones upon his return to the country? Response: I did not know because I was not his bodyguard. Question: what about the meetings? Did he organize the meeting, and at what level or at which zone? Response: could you please clarify which period? Was it 1974? 1974, says the prosecutor. Response: no, I did not know. Question: you stated that you were closed and always with Pol Pot. Did you know about the chief ideas of Pol Pot? That he always discussed those ideas with his subordinates? Response: details were not discussed with his subordinates, but the instruction through me is detailed, and I can elaborate further on this instruction from him to me. Question: can you elaborate further? Response: are you talking about my instruction to me? Yes, says the prosecutor. Response: the instructions are usual. Of course, he did not have to give me instructions as I was an ordinary combatant. What he said was that I have to try my best to guard him, to protect him and his life. Questions regarding the plan to attack Phnom Penh. What level of leadership was decided? Response: to me, it was dark. I did not know anything about that. Question: later on, did you know anything about that, the plan? Response: no, even later on I did not know. However, I heard the soldiers talking that they were afraid the spies infiltrated by the imperialists, and they were in the amount of thousands, and that they would conduct sabotage or espionage in Phnom Penh. Question: can you confirm what types of people determined by the CPK as spies or enemies of the CPK in regard to the US or to the Soviet Union at the time? Response: I cannot elaborate on this matter. Question: can you confirm that the people who were evacuated, what was their conditions? Response: I was guarding the hut, and when I returned to Phnom Penh, it was already quiet. So I did not see the events of the evacuation.
Between 1970 and 1975, did you ever accompany the Pol Pot trips? So between this period, 1970 to 1975, did you work as a Pol Pot's bodyguard? Response: between 1970 and 1975, yes, most of the times I was close to him. Question: besides Pol Pot, did you stay close to any other leaders? Response: yes, I stayed only with Ieng Sari. Mr. Chandra Rasmai. Mr. President, I have only 3 more questions to ask this witness. Mr. Witness, I have 3 last questions for you. Did you ever work as the bodyguard for Ieng Thiret, Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan? Response: as for the 3 leaders you mentioned, I did not provide any close protection for them directly, but in certain ceremonies I did provide protection, but it was in the overall protection context. Question: did you know whether the leaders, namely Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sari, Khieu Samphan, Ieng Thiret, meet often? And if they did, how did they organize the meeting? Response: they did not meet often. And as for the substance of their discussion, I did not know. And as to the venues of the meeting, I did not know either because the meeting took place in various places. Question. In your capacity as a close protection for Pol Pot, and you also encounter with Ieng Sari, did you see Pol Pot and Ieng Sari go to liberated zones? And if he did, where did he go to? And what did he talk to the people over there? Response. I had never provided any close protection to Mr. Ieng Sari to the countryside, but I did for Pol Pot, but on occasional, it was not that frequent. But when I broke off with my uncle Pol Pot, I came to Ieng Sari. But normally, when Pol Pot went to the countryside, he merely went there to open the training sessions. Mr. Chandra Rasmai, that is all for me, Mr. President. I have no further question for this witness, and I thank you, the witness, for endeavoring to answer my questions. And I would like to hand over to my international colleagues to continue our lines of questionings. The President, thank you, the national prosecutors, and I, of course, hand over to the international co-prosecutor to continue the questioning.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, Mesdames.
Thank you, Mr. President, Your Honours. Good morning, witness. Let me start by thanking you for coming to talk to us about this period. We know it is not easy. All of that happened a long time ago. I would like to simply thank you, and I would request that you should be as brief as possible in answering the questions I will put to you. My questions will focus mainly on the period from April 1975 to January 1979. However, before I start putting those questions to you, I would like to have you clarify a few points you made this morning. For instance, this first question was not answered clearly. At what age did you leave your parents? What I mean is, when did you leave the province in which you were, and where did you go?
Response. I left my parents when I was about 7 years old.
Et auprès de qui êtes-vous allé vivre?
And with whom did you go to live?
Response. I went to live with my uncle, who was the elder brother of Pol Pot. Then I moved on to live with another uncle. Then finally I went to stay with Pol Pot.
Et à quel âge êtes-vous allé vivre avec Pol Pot?
How old were you when you went to live with Pol Pot?
I was about 15 or 16 years of age at that time.
Est-ce que vous êtes resté avec Pol Pot? Est-ce qu'il était...
Did you continue to live with Pol Pot, and was he in charge of you from the age of 15 and so later period?
Response: Yes, that is correct.
Concrètement, est-ce que vous l'avez accompagné partout à partir de l'âge de...
In concrete terms, did you accompany him wherever he went from the age of 15, or there were periods when you lived away from him?
Response: It's a bit difficult to answer this question, but I endeavor to answer this question. When I was 15 years of age, my uncle Pol Pot was residing in Phnom Penh, and I was a student. I did not accompany him, but I was brought up by him because I lived with him. But when I met him in the jungle, of course it was then when I stayed close to him all the time.
Est-ce que vous pourriez nous dire plus ou moins vers quelle année vous êtes allé?
Can you tell us more or less in what year you went to meet him in the jungle and for how long you stayed with him?
To my recollection, it was in 1968, 68 or 69.
Est-ce qu'avant cette période, quand Pol Pot était encore...
And prior to that period, when Pol Pot was still in Phnom Penh, did you also reside with Ieng Sari?
When Pol Pot mysteriously disappeared, I left home, which I used to live with Pol Pot. I was a freelance worker. I went to seek for shelter from many friends' house.
Je voudrais simplement revenir sur ce point.
I would like to revisit this point in light of statements you gave. My first question to you is as follows. Were tribunal investigators interview you on several occasions, and did you give any statements to them?
Yes, I am ready to respond.
Pouvez-vous nous dire combien de fois vous avez été interrogé par les...
Can you please tell us how many times you were interviewed by tribunal investigators, and how many times questions were put to you, and how many times you signed statements made by you?
Response: My apology. I have a disease and my health is not good enough, and I cannot remember every detail of that. And when I am summoned here, I feel compelled to come. Therefore, I cannot recall the number of interviews conducted by the OCIJ with me. I care for my daily living. I have to make an earning to feed my families, and I have my family business to deal with on a daily basis.
Pour votre information, j'ai 5.
I would like to inform you that I have 5 records of interviews, and would like to give the first of these, E3/1191, D91/14 as well. I would like to give these to the court greffier.
The President, court officer, please take the documents from the representative of international co-prosecutors to bring it to the witness. Do you wish to display the documents on the computer screens?
Oui, tout à fait. Nous voudrions faire afficher...
Yes, absolutely. We would like to show the first page so that the witness may see his name, and then the page which has the command number 00204096, and in French it is page 00503934, and that is page 5, and in English it is page 4 of the same document with the ERN 00223592.
Je voudrais simplement citer Monsieur le témoin.
Mr. Witness, I would like to refer to something you said, and I'll quote it. And at the time, it was in the hearing, the interview of the 11th of December 2007 in Malay Commune. And this is what you stated. I lived with Mr. Ieng Sari, and I had known him since I was aged 13. That was due to the fact that I was living with my junior uncle Pol Pot, and Mr. Ieng Sari was living in the same home with us. And given the fact that he lived with us as if he was a member of the same family, I always respected him, and I loved him exactly the same way I loved and respected my own uncle, Pol Pot. Do you remember saying that, and would you confirm that?
Response: Yes, I stand by this statement. But my apology if the age was not that exact, because it may have been 13 or 14 years of age at that time.
D'accord, merci pour cette précision.
Fair enough. Thank you for that clarification. When you say that you lived with Pol Pot on the ground after that date, was Ieng Sari also there with you?
Response: As I informed you earlier, I did see him there with us.
Et pourriez-vous nous dire plus ou moins la région où se trouvait?
Can you please tell us in what region Pol Pot was, and where you lived with him on the ground? And you said that Ieng Sari was there. You told us a while ago that that was in 1968, 1979. Can you confirm that?
The President, representative of International Co-Prosecutor, please repeat your question, because the witness doesn't get your question, so he cannot answer to that question.
Vous venez de nous dire tout à l'heure.
You have just stated that you joined Pol Pot in the jungles around 1968, 1969, to the best of your recollection. And you also said that you saw Ieng Sari there. That is where the party leaders were residing at the time?
Response. As I stated earlier, the village was named after the ethnic minority tradition, so it was quite difficult to remember, and I did not even know its whereabouts.
Mais la région était je crois que vous l'avez dit tout à l'heure, le
I believe that you said that that region was the northeast Ratanakiri. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, it was somewhere in the Ratanakiri province in the northeastern zone.
Vous avez tout à l'heure parlé de la
A while ago, you talked of the movement of leaders to a place near the Chinit River, and you told us that you did not see Kir Sampan there, specifically in 1970. But did you see him after 1970? That is 1971, 1972, 1973, or 1974?
Response. Yes, it was on a later date when I saw him.
Est-ce qu'il habitait sur place avec les autres leaders?
Was he residing there with the other leaders, or he only came there occasionally?
He only went there occasionally because his residence was somewhere else.
Je vais maintenant juste revenir sur ce que vous avez dit.
I would like us to revisit what you said regarding Pim Commune, where you resided at a point in time, and you told us that it was not the office of the Central Committee, but a mobile force. I'll give you another document. It is another interview record, and the reference is E3/446D369/36. I would like you to be shown this document, and may I request that the page with the answer to the second question be put on the screen. I think this page would suffice to enable the parties to identify what I am talking about, what I'm referring to.
President, yes, you may proceed. And court officer, please take the document from the prosecutor and present it to the witness. And AV technician, please ensure that the document is displayed on the screen.
En fait, je voudrais que vous puissiez lire aussi la réponse numéro 1.
I would also like you to read the answer to question number 1 and the answer to question number 2. And if I may, let me read it. The first question was as follows: before 17th of April 1975, where were you, sir? And your answer was, before the 17th of April, I was in Kampong Spray province, Udong district, which was the office of the Central Committee, and it was a quartering area in view of any attack against Phnom Penh. And the second question was as follows: what was the code number of that office? Your answer was, I have forgotten the code number. At the time, I was in Kreng Beng village, Kreng Mau village, Kampong Speu province. Do you stand by your statement that that was a mobile force office, or that it was an office of the Central Committee, as he told the investigators on the 17th of April 2010.
Response. I used the word office, but actually it was not like an office per se, because it was only a house, and it was on mobile as well.
Qui travaillait sur place?
Who was working in that office whose name changed with time, but which was still in the region? Who were the leaders who worked in that office?
Response. Pol Pot.
Est-ce qu'il y avait des dirigeants qui venaient d'autres régions de...
Did any leaders from other regions and zones come to visit Pol Pot in that office?
It was at his behest, and once in a while, one or two zone leaders were invited to meet him in that place.
Est-ce que vous aviez la moindre idée de ce qui pouvait être débattu?
Do you have the slightest idea as to what Pol Pot and the different zone leaders could have discussed in that place?
I have no idea of what they were discussing.
Dans le même procès-verbal d'audition,
The same record, may I read the answer to question number 4, Mr. President? It is still the same record, D369/36OE3436. May I request that the document be put on the screen? With your leave.
The President. Yes, you may proceed.
alors la question 4, c'était...
Question number 4 was as follows, regarding the 3 or 4 persons who attended meetings. Who were they? And your answer was as follows. At times, people from the east or the southeast zone were convened to meetings, and after they went home, they had to disseminate information they gathered at those meetings. After the fall of Phnom Penh, major meetings were held for disseminating state instructions. And to question 5, you said the following. Did you know the subject of meetings attended by the 3 or 4 persons you referred to, sir? And your answer was as follows. No, I know nothing at all about the contents of those meetings. All I know is that the objective of those meetings was to discuss the plan of the attack of Phnom Penh town. They also talked about the manner in which ammunition had to be managed. My question to you is as follows. Do you recall saying that, and do you confirm that today or not?
Response. It was my guess, because at that time we were about to attack Phnom Penh, so naturally we had to discuss the management of ammunition.
Est-ce qu'il a jamais été discuté du...
Did they ever discuss the fate of the people of Phnom Penh at the time?
I did not know anything about that.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, I will not go into another line of questioning from April 1975 to 1979. So may I request that we stop the questioning at this point and go on our lunch break, by your leave.
The President, thank you very much. Since the prosecution is to move on to the next topic in his line of questioning, and the time is now appropriate for lunch adjournment, the court will adjourn for lunch until 1:30 this afternoon. And court officer, please ensure that there is a room for the duty counsel and the witness to rest during the lunch break, and bring them back to this courtroom before 1:30 this afternoon. I note that the defense counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chie is on his feet. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. As usual, my client would like to request to follow the remainder of the proceedings from the holding cell. I have the appropriate waiver here to hand over to the court official.
The President, thank you, counsel. Please be seated. Having heard the request by Nguyen Chie through his defense counsel, requesting that he be excused from this courtroom and to follow the remainder of the proceedings today in the holding cell downstairs. And the counsel has expressly made it clear that he will submit the waiver to the chamber. The chamber grants the request by Nguyen Chie through his defense counsel to follow the proceeding from the holding cell downstairs, where the audio-visual link is connected for him for the remainder of the proceedings. So he has expressly waived his right to participate directly in this courtroom. The chamber requires the defense teams for Nguyen Chie to submit to the chamber immediately the waiver with the signature or thumbprint of the accused. And AV technicians are instructed to connect the audio video for the accused to follow the remainders of the proceeding this afternoon. And security guards are instructed to bring Mr. Nguyen Chie and Mr. Khieu Sampon to the holding cell downstairs. And Mr. Nguyen Chie is to remain in the holding cell this afternoon, where he will be linked to the video to this courtroom. However, Mr. Khieu Sampon shall be brought to this courtroom before 1:30. The court is adjourned.
ជាតិស្របតាមបទដ្ឋានយុត្តិធម៌អន្តរជាតិដោយលើកឡើងដោយលោក Stephen Webb ឯកអគ្គរដ្ឋទូតកោចរ